Okay, so welcome to CineWatch Live. This is episode 9, where we are continuing to break down our top 100 favourite films of all time. Just a quick bit of news. Bill and Ted Face the Music has been moved up about a week to August the 14th now. It was August the 21st, I think, or something like that. So it's been moved. And DC Fandom's just been announced, which is a substitute for SDCC for DC. So all the news, actors, whatever, will be involved with DC Fandom, which takes place on the 22nd of August this year. And Cineworld cinemas in the UK are opening on July the 10th. So that is all the news, really, that's just come out today, in fact. But we should get straight on with the podcast. There's more news on our Cinewatch Instagram page, at Cinewatch. And Sophie, take it away with your 20.
My number 20. Okay, so my 20th film is Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Ooh, okay. I just want to say I recently watched this after I'd made my list, but it is an honourable mention for me.
Have you seen it, Lucas?
I haven't, no.
Oh, I think
I'm
you'd
continuing
like
the
it.
trend of having seen none of your films.
That's fair. I think you'd like it.
I probably would.
I watched it as a child, but I can appreciate it more now that I'm an adult. Because there's aspects to it that I'm sat there it completely went over my head when I was watching it as a child. But it's about this. It's a crossover between cartoon and actual real life.
No, I know what it is and everything. I've just never watched it.
Yeah, and basically it's about this investigator who investigates this case, and it's a crossover between Toontown and that. But it's got some great acting, but it's just all of it's so nice, and it's such a the theme of noir in it is so. I don't know. I don't like using the word refreshing as to describe a film, but it's kind of like that.
I know what you mean. No, I'd use refreshing. Not for that film because I haven't seen it, but I know what you mean.
I feel like you may know what's coming, but it is on Disney Plus.
Not again.
That's the one plug I'll do. I swear to God. I swear. That's it.
I would recommend watching it
on Disney
Plus.
Who
hasn't seen it, and Lucas. So that's my number 20.
Okay, my number 20 is Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows.
I haven't seen that.
Nor have I. Never.
Have you not?
No.
I really
Brad,
need
I
to.
thought Brad would have.
I'm really not into Sherlock Holmes, at all.
Have either of you seen the first one?
No.
I haven't seen any of the films because I'm a massive fan of Sherlock Holmes. I love the TV show so much. I just haven't gone round to watching the film because there's
absolutely
to it that
I thought they wouldn't be good because I loved the Benedict Cumberbatch one so much. But the films are so good.
I think it's on Netflix, isn't it?
Both of them. I don't know about the first.
They're now on
Game
Prime
of
Video,
Shadows,
actually. They were on. They got onto Prime Video last week. Both of them.
Brilliant. I'll watch them on that, actually.
100% The first one's good, but not fantastic. But the second one is really, really good, which is the one that I've got on my list.
Like I said, I can't comment because I've never seen it. So, my number 20 is Sunset Boulevard.
Ooh, interesting choice.
Honourable mention.
Yeah, it's Billy Wilder, I want to say, isn't it? It's Billy Wilder. And it's
I think so. Yeah.
It's about 1940 as well. It's one of my favourite Wilder films. I've not seen a great deal of them, but I actually have one. Another Billy Wilder film in this episode, so it's not my favourite of all time, but I don't know, he's just, again, it's from that time of filmmaking, I think, that was very... Do you know what, it brings me to the point that I was watching Ben-Hur yesterday with my dad, and I said to him that you just don't get films like this anymore, you just don't get films like Sunset Boulevard anymore, I think, personally.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a certain level of originality that they just don't have anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And the storytelling is just so different to nowadays. And I think that's just one of the reasons I really liked it. It's just, it's hard to get my point across, but yeah.
It's very different to any other film.
Yeah, I agree. It really is.
You would struggle to name a film similar to it, I think.
Sophie, what do you saying on the matter?
Well, I mean, I watched this film such a long time ago. I don't have much to comment on it, but I agree that there's not many films out there nowadays that are like this. It's just a good classic film.
Yeah.
So my number 19 film is I watched this a while ago, but I rewatched it recently, and it's such an amazing film. It's BlacKkKlansman.
Oh, so good. So good.
Is that the newer one?
Spike Lee one, 2018.
Yeah. I haven't seen it.
He won an Oscar for that as well.
Must-watch.
Like his first Oscar
It deserved
win.
Best Picture.
It did. It was so good. Oh, so good. What won Best Picture that year?
It's a Green Book.
Oh, Green Book. Christ, yeah, Green Book. Yeah, no.
That's what I'm upset about, because Klansman should have won Best Picture.
Yeah, it really should have. Honestly, that you know.
Lucas, definitely it is a must-watch. It is such a good film. There's comedy, there's drama. It's really upsetting to watch, but it's just done in such an amazing way and in such a Spike Lee manner that it's just such a good film.
Okay.
I mean, there's Adam Driver. That's enough to sell it.
Adam Driver's so good in this as well.
I feel very bad only promoting the white guy in it when it is a predominantly black-led film as well, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And there's issues that it goes over really, especially now, they're definitely important.
Yeah.
I suppose especially at the moment.
Yeah. No, BlacKkKlansman is an amazing film. I don't know what more I can say about it. I just feel like it's such an underappreciated film. Like, Spike Lee is such an amazing director as well.
Oh, he is great, honestly, and his newest joint, as he calls them, Da Five Bloods, is now, it went on Netflix, on Friday, I think. Last Friday,
Yeah.
the 12th, so, yeah, no, that will... Yeah, I'm going to watch it, actually. I haven't seen it yet. Have any of you seen it?
No. Need to.
Yeah, I need to as well. I need to watch more of his films, to be honest.
He's a really good director.
Okay, my number 19 is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
I haven't seen that because I am not a massive fan of Eddie Redmayne, and I'm also not a massive fan of Fantastic Beasts.
How do you know you're not a massive fan of Fantastic
Because,
Beasts? If you haven't seen
I haven't seen the whole film. I tried, but the fact that they're just doing a whole new thing, I think they should have just stopped at the end of the Harry Potter films. I feel like
Sophie,
it's such overkill.
You frustrate me so much that you just watch half a film and don't finish it. That frustrates me so much. You
That's
told
just
me,
wrong.
yeah. She told me last night that she watched half of Schindler's List and didn't finish it, and I'm like, that frustrates me so much.
Sophie.
But I have seen it, and I
know.
I have no opinion. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it. So
I respect that more than Sophie's crap, Brad.
Yeah, that's fair.
At least you watched it. Disgraceful. Well, I love this film because, as proven by my list so far, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
Obviously.
But I liked that it wasn't Harry Potter, though. I quite enjoyed that it showed that sort of wizarding world, but in the actual world, instead of just in the high school.
That's fair, yeah.
So I quite enjoyed seeing the application of magic and the wizarding world in the real world. Plus, I love the 1920s setting.
I think
I love that era.
there's a theme here, because when I had Guardians of the Galaxy last episode, Lucas was like, "Oh, I don't like really the cosmic side. I prefer the real world side." I think you just like seeing the real world get demolished by.
Wait, it did not get demolished.
There was a part of it, wasn't it, where they got demolished? Something did. I can't remember.
One building got broken. That's it. But I just find films not more easy to enjoy, because that's fantastic grammar, but easier to enjoy when they're in locations we can recognise.
I feel you, but yeah, I don't really
know what you
mind.
mean.
Yeah.
That's probably not the best way of wording it, but they're more relatable because they're on Earth.
My number 19 is a film that, obviously because it's on the list, but I fucking love it so much. It's Wreck-It Ralph. I honestly, I have had so many people, don't even give that reaction, I've had so many people be like, what? Why?
Yeah, I'm kind of with them. I'm really not.
It is so fucking good in terms of like filmmaking, right?
Sorry,
Firstly, for one, I would defend it to the day I die. In terms of filmmaking, it's great, right? The voices are perfect, I think anyway. It's got the emotion, it's got the whirlwind impact, it's got everything you need for a kids film. Really, it's such a great kids film, I think personally. But
What about those of us that aren't kids?
well, those of us that aren't kids, right? You need to grow down a little, don't you? Wreck-It Ralph, because it is a brilliant film. I don't know how you can't think it's good in terms of filmmaking, but nonetheless, you are fake film students. You're just film fans, as one man iconically said.
Quality film students, not Wreck-It Ralph film students.
I'm with Sophie.
Well, look, I'll defend it till the day I die. And I went to see Ralph Breaks the Internet on the day it came out because I was so excited. We had a day off school, I think, and I went to see it. It was a Friday, and I was literally in there with a 5-year-old, and we had the time of our life. So
I'm going to avoid the joke that's available there.
Yep, moving on. Brad, are you done before we say anything else?
I'm done. Just watch Wreck-It Ralph, please, people.
That was so easy.
Okay, so my number 18 film is actually mine might raise some questions as well. It's Fantastic Mr. Fox.
No, that's quality.
See, I didn't enjoy that. It was so boring.
No, Brad, shush.
That's got nothing on Wreck-It Ralph.
Taller than him.
So harsh. Fantastic Mr. Fox. This is not my last Wes Anderson film on this list. Wes Anderson is a good director.
Wes Anderson.
Oh.
I'm just a real sucker for Roald Dahl.
Sophie's a Wes Fanderson. It's really annoying.
I wouldn't count myself as one of those.
I grew up on Roald Dahl books, so I just love the film.
I think the way
Did you grow up literally just like on top of them? Like,
yeah.
He's so tall.
Brad can't relate to growing up.
Oh my, these small jokes are just coming left, right, and centre.
You brought it up that time, not me.
No, I just said, did you literally grow up on the books? Like, I didn't mention anything about height.
Oh, I thought you were making a height joke.
No, I meant, did you just like, I don't know, did your mum pop a new Roald Dahl book under your life? I don't know, every time you grew up? Every birthday?
Shittiest metaphor.
I was going to say, Sophie, do you want to help me out here? Because I'm confused.
So right, anyway, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'll bring it back to the actual topic.
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, Brad.
Just the way that this film's done. Also, the soundtrack's so good, and it's just how they made all each characters. Like they even focus on some of the smaller characters. And the cast in this film is like amazing. So you've got like the likes of George Clooney and Meryl Streep's in it. Yeah, George Clooney's Mr. Fox.
No, I knew Clooney was. I didn't know Meryl Streep was in it.
She is Mrs. Fox.
Wow.
And there's also Michael Gambon, Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, William Dafoe. Like, this cast is amazing.
Wow. Are there any of those people in it?
Oh, you do, and can become 10 times better. Just liked how Wes Anderson did this film. It's just really interesting, and you know, I can watch it time and time again because there's so many funny books in it, and it's just really good. And it's a childhood film, and I can watch it now. Like, I don't know, really enjoyable.
I'm glad it's a childhood film for you that wasn't to do with killing or anything else. So I will accept this.
Or Saw.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know if this technically should count as a kids' film, but I'm not sure it does. Is the
into this list?
No, a kids' film. So if you're not your kids' film.
Oh shit! Sorry.
I technically have already had this film, but it's a live-action remake of it. So my number 18 is Alice in Wonderland, but the 2010 live-action version.
And you're here laughing at me for liking Wreck-It Ralph.
I liked the.
Oh, shut up, Sophie. Why don't you go back to your theatre podcast? Yeah? Shut up.
No, I actually enjoyed that.
Thank you, Sophie.
It was kind of twisted. I don't know, it had Coraline-like aspects to it.
Do not say that it was scary.
Oh yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was
It's quite a dark
interesting.
interpretation of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Brad?
But I also thought Johnny Depp was fantastic.
Oh, yes.
As the Mad Hatter. He plays it really well. And the cast, just in general, was amazing. Well, I'm not going to lie, I can't remember the name of the girl who plays Alice, so we're going to move past that quickly. But Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter.
Anna Bonham Carter.
Yeah, as the Queen. Anne Hathaway is the White Queen. Matt Lucas. Alan Rickman.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he was in that.
He's the Caterpillar, isn't he?
Yeah.
I just thought it was... Having seen both, I really liked the 2010 one because it didn't have, like, it missed out from the animation, but it also brought in new aspects.
Yeah.
And I felt it focused more on each character. It wasn't so much Alice just journeying through, meeting them and moving on, which is what happened a lot in the animated one. This one felt like she actually grew a connection with each of the people she met.
Like she actually gave a shit.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. My number 18 is my favourite rom-com of all time. Some of you may know what I'm on about. Some of you may not. Notting Hill. Done by Richard Curtis, I want to say. Is that his name?
No idea, but this was on TV the other day.
Oh my god, it's so good. I wish you'd have told me. I've seen it like 3 times. I love
Have
this.
you seen it or not?
What? I don't care if I've seen it.
Yeah, Richard Curtis was the screenplay.
I feel like he directed it as well, though, didn't he?
No, Roger Michelle.
Oh, okay. Well, Richard Curtis does a lot of rom-coms, and I'm a big fan of his. He wrote the screenplay, I think, for About Time. He did Love Actually, I think.
I love Love Actually.
I think he...
Such a good film.
I think the only one he didn't have any involvement in was like Bridget Jones. He basically does all the British rom-coms. Let's just keep it at that.
Notting Hill and About Time, I've been waiting to watch for months, but I've promised to watch them with someone, so I've had to wait.
Oh, just watch Notting Hill is so good. Like, it's so good. I don't know, like, it's just what Hugh Grant, for one, is just a great actor, personally, I think.
Yeah, completely agree.
And he has a strangely brilliant chemistry with Julia Roberts. It just works perfectly. The story is so simple and so brilliantly told. It's like, I just can't say any more than that. Like, it's just the narrative, the characters, the actors. You know, it all comes together, and it's perfectly executed for a rom-com film.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Have you seen it then, Sophie?
Yeah, it was on the other day. I watched it the other day.
You watched the whole thing? You didn't just like stop halfway through, yeah?
Can if you want me to. No, I watched the whole thing. Surprise, surprise.
Okay, good.
That actually is a surprise.
Hi guys.
And you really liked it?
I really like it.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good.
My number 17 is a film I don't think either of you have seen. I'm just assuming right now. It's called High Fidelity.
No.
What?
I was giving you the silent treatment. Sorry.
Always give me the silent treatment.
I've heard of it. That's all I can say.
Hold on, when did it come out?
2000.
Oh no, definitely no, haven't seen it.
It is such a good film. It's probably one of the first films I ever watched where the protagonist breaks the fourth wall. It's about a guy who owns a record shop, and he decides one day that he wants to go back and kind of talk to his past girlfriends he's had, asks them why they dumped him. It does. I probably haven't advertised this very well, but it's just the way it's done. It's hilarious, and this guy and his best mate is like this crazy guy who owns the record shop with him, who's played by Jack Black. I just think it's just such a funny film, and it's such a light-hearted film. And the soundtrack's amazing, obviously. No, I really recommend it. They made some kind of shitty remake in America, not in America, but like a Hulu version. Well, shitty. So don't watch that. Watch the original film.
Yeah, I'll watch the remake.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Not funny, Lucas.
It was funny.
Yes.
My next 3 films are all part of the same.
I thought you were fully about to jump 3 films, so I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I
I'm
thought.
just so sick of hearing Sophie's voice. I'm just going to jump.
We're like, we'll get ours done so we can just leave.
My next 7 films are... No, the next 3 films are all in the same trilogy, and I consider it the greatest trilogy to ever be made. These
Oh god, it's the Batman trilogy, isn't it?
No.
Okay, good.
Considering I've already had Batman Begins and The Dark Knight on my list, it would be a pretty shit hit, wouldn't it?
That's true, that is true. I stand corrected.
The only reason this isn't in my top 10 is because it takes up 3 spots. So I've put it here. It is the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh Lord, I'm going to be silent for the next films then.
Thank God. Brad, thoughts?
I had one of them in my... Because I wanted to put all 3 in my 100, but I just couldn't. So I put... let me try and find which one I put in. I put in The Fellowship of the Ring as my number 55. So that's what...
I honestly cannot floor these films. I love them so much.
To interpret the book as well, like, they are very good. I mean, I've, like, partly read the book, but, like, that's a long book to interpret.
They're quite true to it.
Are they? Oh, wow.
Yeah. They stay quite true to the book, to my knowledge. It's been a while. But I just love the film so much. So at the bottom of the 3, I've got Fellowship of the Ring. Just because, while they're all absolutely amazing, this was the one that I enjoyed the least. Maybe just because it was the start of the story, so it's when the characters are still getting acquainted and the story's still establishing itself.
Yeah, I get you. I actually preferred Fellowship to... See, it's been a long time as well since I watched them, and they're so long.
I rewatched them last week.
Oh, well, all of them?
And I'm stuck with the order I'd already said, but Fellowship at the bottom, for no reason other than the fact that it's just because the story's establishing itself, the characters aren't properly acquainted yet.
Don't tell us the other 2 yet, by the way.
Absolutely incredible film still.
Yeah, for me, Fellowship's the most memorable for me personally. Like, I do remember the other 2. Actually, I can't actually remember any. Like, I can remember a few scenes from Two Towers, but I don't know if that was in Return of the King.
Those 2 are quite difficult to differentiate between because it's where most of the giant battles.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I can remember the giant battle from Return of the King right at the end.
Yeah,
and
but some of the other ones are quite difficult to tell the difference between.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not a huge problem for me because it's all the same story, just told in 3 different parts.
Yeah, It's
because it's not like Star Wars or Marvel where there's a time jump between some of the films. They literally lead on from each other exactly.
Yeah. Apart from Dark Crystal, this really to me felt like, even though it's so...
Sorry?
Apart from the Dark Crystal...
Dark Crystal?
Have you never heard of the Dark Crystal? The Jim Henson film, 1980s.
Sorry, I thought you meant something in Lord of the Rings.
No, right, so I was saying, like, apart from that film, The Dark Crystal, the Lord of the Rings trilogy really felt to me, even though they're still quite new, they felt really the beginning to really fantasy epic films.
Yeah, agreed. But for me, Lord of the Rings is like the mantle against which all fantasy films and TV shows are put.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Game of Thrones without Lord of the Rings is, game.
I still consider Lord of the Rings better.
Oh no, I would too. That's why I'm saying without Lord of the Rings there is no Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings set the bar, and it's still the top choice for me. The battles are just incredible, and I think partly because they don't just show the main characters. In the battles, they show clips of the regular soldiers fighting, the damage being done. There's a huge variety of what you see throughout the film, so
yeah,
it never
I agree.
gets boring.
Did you like The Hobbits, by the way?
I do. I really enjoyed them. They're nowhere near as good as Lord of the Rings, but I don't understand why they're so heavily criticised. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, I enjoyed them
very much. Yeah. So yeah, obviously I'll keep talking about these throughout the next 2 slots.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to you.
My 17 is... Welcome back, Sophie, by the way. My 17 is The Truman Show.
Yeah, I've already had that, but yeah, good film.
Yeah, it's great. We don't really need to say much on it. Like, obviously, I think whoever had it before I said my thoughts on it. I rewatched it recently, actually, and you just can't fault The Truman Show, really. It's Jim Carrey's best performance,
It's
in my
Netflix,
opinion.
I think.
I think it is, actually. It's definitely on Sky Cinema, I know that, I think. But yeah, it's Jim Carrey's best performance, I think. For me personally.
Yeah, I think I can.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So, that's why I like it. Jim Carrey's best performance. Narrative is brilliant. I think it was so different to any other film I've ever seen. It's such a great concept, and it sort of reminded me of the concept of Big Brother, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm so glad there's never been a sequel. It doesn't need a sequel. Please never do a sequel.
It doesn't need touching. It should just be left alone.
It really
definitely.
should.
Same thing with Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
You've done it. You nailed it. Leave it.
Although they are doing that Lord of the Rings TV show.
Be quiet, Brad. We don't acknowledge that as.
Oh no.
It might be really good though.
It still won't replace the films for me. I don't care how good it is.
Well, that's a conversation for another day. Sophie.
Yeah, exactly.
Righty, so my number 16 is a film we've already had once, I think maybe twice. It's Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, I have seen it. I think I had it on my list. I'm trying to look where it was. On my list.
It's not on mine.
Okay.
Is it an honourable mention?
I'd say honourable mention. Yeah.
So I had it at 74, so I had it very early on into the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you had it low down on your list, but the reason it's so high up on mine is because I just think it's such a genius film. Like, I could watch it time and time again, and it's like, don't get bored at all, and it's just brilliant. I don't know, I mean, I love all of the Cornetto trilogy, but I think Hot Fuzz is my favourite out of all of them.
Edgar Wright is... I love him as a director. Just...
Underrated director.
He is so underrated.
Yeah, definitely underrated.
Like,
He's brilliant. I've got another one of his films on my list as well.
I don't think I have any.
I think for me, Baby Driver as well is an honourable mention.
Baby Driver and Shaun of the Dead. Definitely honourable mentions for me.
Like you see, Baby Driver is on my list.
That's such a good film. I don't know why. I don't know why.
I can't wait for Last Night in Soho as well, which is coming out next year from Edgar Wright.
It's going to be so good. Yeah, Hot Fuzz is just a brilliant film. We've already spoken about it a lot anyway, so we can move on to the next film. Lucas.
I'll give you 3 guesses what my next one is.
Is it to do with Lord of the Rings?
It is. Well done.
Whoa!
Although I have just noticed that I've typed Fellowship of the King and then Return of the Ring instead of Fellowship of the Ring and Return of the King. Yeah, my number 16 is Lord of the Rings Return of the King, which is the third one. So in order from like bottom to highest, I've gone 1, 3, 2. And that's because I really like the third one still. Again, I love them all very, very, very much. But Return of the King, I felt like the very, very, very final battle where they go to the gates to fight is ridiculously anticlimactic.
I can't say too much about these films because I haven't seen them.
I still love the final fight. It's still brilliant, but it's a bit anticlimactic because it's at like the final location where the evil's supposed to generate from, and it doesn't actually last long. But in fairness, that does kind of fit with the story because the whole point was that battle was meant to be a distraction from the main character sneaking in. So it makes sense that it wasn't a huge battle and was a bit anticlimactic, but I just love the Lord of the Rings battle, so I would have liked to have seen more. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Other than that, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it has one of the greatest Lord of the Rings moments in any of the films, in my opinion. So,
which is?
I don't like the films too much, but I can appreciate that they're quite beautiful films.
They are. I can't flaw them. I grew up on them. Like again, it's a bit like Roald Dahl, but I watched these films just on repeat as a child. Always just adored them.
I was gonna say why is his family out for that long? Just sitting him in front of a TV with that on repeat.
Yeah.
But
that's it. That's how I was. They didn't need babysitters. They just need Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Played it on repeat.
Your personality has been built around Lord of the Rings, Lucas.
Yeah, literally, I can quote most of the films, just line for line. They're just so good, except for the parts that are in the made-up languages, which makes it more difficult.
Yeah,
not impossible, but more difficult.
My number 16 is another Disney film that you're probably going to laugh at, The Emperor's New Groove.
I've never seen that.
No, I haven't. I know what it is. I know of it, but I've never seen it.
It's so underrated. Like it's.
We'll just laugh at you anyway. But
I feel like there's this small little fan base that loves The Emperor's New Groove, and like it's so good. It is so. Like I don't even think it like.
when was it released?
It was released in like 2005, I want to say, something like
So
that.
it's like early-ish Disney.
It was
Early modern Disney cartoons.
it was well, yeah, but it was coming to the end of 2D Disney because they expanded into 3D Disney.
Yeah.
So it was like I think The Princess and the Frog was the final ever 2D Disney animation classic.
In that case, I'd give you the benefit of the doubt that it's good because the 2D Disney animations tend to just be really good.
Yeah, I mean not all of them. Some of the straight to DVD ones are really shit, but
Yeah, but the well-known-ish ones.
yeah, this one.
Which Emperor's New Groove is well known enough that I was aware of it.
Yeah,
Is me,
this
so
I
that's what I'm saying.
can't remember if it was released in cinemas or not, but I would have been alive. But I can't remember because I would have been like 3 or something, I think.
Yeah, we'd have been too young to remember.
But I know that it was also around the time that Disney Channel became a lot more popular, and then they made a Disney Channel series based off of it. So
Oh dear.
I don't know if it was a Disney Channel original movie. I really hope it wasn't. I don't feel like it would have been, but nonetheless, it's a great film. It's got a great villain, a female villain, if that means anything. And Kuzco he's the main character. He's so easy to like identify with because he's like this. He's in like the sort of Egyptian Roman times. I can't remember what it is, and he's literally like a modern.
Emperor, it's probably Rome.
Yeah, so he's literally like a modern day teenager though. So, which is like the best thing about it is like even today, like he still is just like this cool dude teenager that just wants to live his life and not be controlled by rules. And you know how like royal families and stuff can be pinned down by rules. He just
It's like Prince Harry.
yeah, exactly. But he's a bit more.
That was meant to be a joke, but it actually worked out kind of.
No, but like that's what I was gonna say. He's a bit more he's not like Prince Harry and
He's less ginger.
Well, yeah, and also actually, to be fair, he's like Prince Harry's earlier days. You know when Prince Harry was like going out, getting smashed, getting in the papers for being naked, and stuff like that. Kuzco's a bit like that, but
The good old days.
you identify with Kuzco because he's such a good, fun, cool lad, and the story is pretty simple. Not that it has to be complex, but it's pretty simple. There are far better Disney films, but for me, this one is so enjoyable that I had to put it on my list because I love it. It's great. Thank you and good night.
Okay, my number 15 is a film we had. I think it was last time. I think Lucas, you had it. It's Knives Out.
Yeah.
Oh, so good, so good. I love it. Oh,
Was that last time? No, that was it. That was my number 36. That should be way higher.
it's not even on my list. I feel really bad. Like it's an honourable mention.
Okay, I'm not as bad now.
What are you doing, Brad? Jesus. Knives Out is such a good film.
It is. It's just so good.
I wish I could watch it again. I don't have any kind of platform to watch it on.
I know in the USA it went on Prime Video, but I don't believe it did here.
My sponsor person's not helping me out here, Brad. What he did.
It may be on Now TV though. I don't know though.
I honestly think even as a hardcore Captain America fan, I think it's Chris Evans' best role.
It's so nice to see him out of the normal Captain America hero kind of role.
It's such a different role.
Yeah, and he suits it. I like it.
Yeah, he does it really well.
Yeah, and
He can play a really mean character quite successfully compared to being the goody two-shoes of Captain America.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't just seen him in the role of Captain America. I mean, enjoyed him in, so very good in The Losers, which I think was in my 90s, at the very beginning of this list. Yeah, it was Losers.
I don't think I've seen that.
I recommend it. It's a very mucking about film.
I might have.
But Knives Out was definitely a role that I really appreciated. That it was completely different, but he did it so well. And the rest of the cast, I mean, the cast for Knives Out is amazing. Just the whole story about it, and like sometimes in like whodunits, you can evidently see who did it. But I feel like in this one they executed it rather well. I mean, that or I'm very simple. I didn't know, but
completely agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a good film. It's brilliant. I feel like it should have been up for a couple more awards.
Yeah, I thought that. It was quite... I mean, I wouldn't say it's underrated because loads of people loved it, but it didn't do as well
as I thought.
Award-wise.
Yeah.
I'd agree on that.
But yeah, it's out. Brilliant film.
Nice. Yeah, completely agree, as it was higher on my list. My number 15 is the second Lord of the Rings film, The Two Towers. And I honestly can't say enough good things about this film, so I'm going to keep it short. This was easily my favourite Lord of the Rings film, probably because it's the one in the middle. And actually, I wonder if you two will agree on this. I usually find the second film of a trilogy to be the best one.
Yes, in some senses.
Yeah, not in all, but in quite a few cases, I always find...
I think The Dark Knight and Empire Strikes Back are two great examples.
Exactly. Winter Soldier in the Captain America trilogy.
Yeah.
Doesn't really apply to Iron Man or Thor, so we're going to pretend that's not true. But yeah, I really, really, really love this film. Probably mostly because it's the second one, so all the story and everything has already been established. But it also doesn't end. Like, it leaves it on, not a cliffhanger as such, but with more to come.
Yeah.
But it also has my favourite battle, or fictional battle, in any TV show, film, well, those are the only two mediums we talk about, which is the Battle of Helm's Deep, which I think is just the greatest, like, TV/film battle ever. It's so good. The dynamic between all the characters is brilliant. Even though the soundtrack as well in Lord of the Rings makes such a huge difference to the scenes because it's so good.
I can agree with the soundtrack for these films are amazing.
It's absolutely incredible.
I feel like sometimes a soundtrack makes a film. Like, without a soundtrack, Lord of the Rings would be so totally different. Like, it really...
I can agree there.
It really enforces a different response, I think, from the spectator with a soundtrack.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. Like I said, I'm going to stop there because otherwise I'll just not ever stop talking about it.
Well, I am honestly just glad we got through the Lord of the Rings trilogy without a Brad, you look like Gimli joke. So, I'm going to move on to my number...
I'm pretty sure I made a Hobbit one somewhere.
Yeah, probably.
I'll tell you when I'm editing it.
Whether it was out loud or not, I don't know.
Aww.
I might have typed it as a text to Sophie and then not hit send, actually.
Get that later then.
Yep.
So my 15 is Call Me By Your Name, and I know, Sophie, you've not seen it, but you've listened to the soundtrack.
Soundtrack's so good.
I was gonna say that is one of the key things about it, which is so good. The soundtrack.
I'm not like massively shocked that it's so high up on your list, but I think I'm pleasantly surprised. Because I haven't seen it, but like I know a lot about it because it's a very popular film.
First of all, I will say I can't lie. I can't sit here and lie to you and tell you that I don't love Timothée Chalamet as an actor, because I do. I love him as an actor. I think he's just brilliant in everything he's in. He puts his most efforts into it. Like, I saw a film called Beautiful Boy with him and Steve Carell in. It's so good.
Oh, I need to watch that.
It's on Prime. It's so good because Timothée Chalamet. I mean, both their performances in that are great. But anyway, I've digressed. Call Me By Your Name, Armie Hammer, Timothée Chalamet. It's based on a book which I haven't read, but I feel like it sticks to quite well. And obviously the soundtrack's great, the story is great. It's really different sort of setting. It's set in like the 80s, but it's not, you know your Hollywood tends to go for dynamic, colourful, vibrant 80s. This is more like, I think they're set in Italy, and it's just not, it looks like it could even be in modern day. Like, there are obviously the signifiers that it is a different time, but I'm rambling about the setting. Anyway, honestly, I would definitely watch it. It's a great story, and as well, it's quite prominent I didn't even plan this, it's Pride Month for the LGBT community, and it's an LGBTQ film, which I would say is probably the best one. I've not really seen a lot of LGBTQ films, if I'm honest, but it's the best one I have seen, and it got Oscar nominations. I think it got Oscar wins for Best Adapted Screenplay. Yeah, honestly, have any of you, I know Sophie hasn't, have you seen it, Lucas?
No, I haven't.
Well, that ends that.
Yeah, so I was gonna watch it. I know it was on Netflix for a while, but it got taken off recently, and I was just so mad about that because I was planning on watching it. I had a night to sit down to watch it, and then it just got taken off.
Yeah, also, in terms of film titles, this is really random. Sorry to cut you off, but this is really random. I love the title. I know it's the same title as the book, but I think it's a great title. Call Me by Your Name.
It's imaginative.
It is imaginative.
You and I have had this conversation before, haven't we, Brad, about films?
We have, because I thought Always Be My Maybe was a good title, and none of you did. But I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was on a podcast or if we'd spoken about it.
I think it was not in a podcast, I think. But yeah.
No, I don't think it was.
They also want to make a sequel to Call Me by Your Name, which I'm hoping... I mean, Timothy and Army both said they come back, but I'm hoping they don't do it, because... Yeah, I just don't want to see...
They don't do the sequel, or that those two aren't in the sequel?
No, I just hope they don't do it at all, because even though they're getting the same actors and director...
That doesn't guarantee it'll be good, though.
It doesn't guarantee it'll be good, and I don't think there's a sequel book. I could be completely very wrong on that. But if there isn't, then they're going off like a completely new story, which wouldn't work.
No, that also just usually fails, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like independent films don't need sequels. I don't know why they do, but there you go. If you could see me right now, it's like really weird. Like, you know, like when you put your hand in your palm and you're really trying to get a point across. That's what I'm doing.
That is dedicated to this topic.
I actually am.
Yeah.
Call Me by Your Name. No,
Very
joking.
glad you said palm.
Right.
So my number 14 is Leon the Professional.
I have
Oh, good
never heard
choice.
of that in my life, ever.
You
Haven't?
haven't heard
Like,
Leon the Professional?
no, never in my life. What the hell is that?
I'm shocked that you
Disgusted.
haven't. I thought you, of all people, would have, Brad.
What is it?
I'm gobsmacked.
It's about he's an assassin, isn't he? Sophie,
And he's
help
an
me.
assassin. He's an assassin, and he's living
He's
in,
like-
I think it's New York.
And he's training a young girl to be an assassin as well. Is that right?
And yeah. Basically,
It's
like,
Natalie Portman when she's
he
younger.
finds her, and she's like, "Oh, can you train me up to be an assassin?" Not really, but then she kind of does. She kind of forces him to teach her. But I mean, it's just a relationship that they have. It's not like
Really good
an actual relationship or anything. It's just really sweet. It's got Natalie Portman, and like there's a bad guy to hunt down Leon. The bad guy is played by Gary Oldman in one of his best roles ever.
Yes.
He is so good in this film.
He's
Like-
good in most things.
It is very true. In this, he's almost haunting as a bad guy. He's terrifying. I don't know. It's just, it's brilliant. It's such an amazing film. Like, the whole concept is amazing, and it's a very badass film.
My number 14 is, I think, my second to last, Marvel film, which is Captain America Civil War.
Such a good film.
It's a
I
fantastic
rewatched
film.
the other day.
It is not in any regard perfect. There are a lot
No.
of things that I would have done differently. Like, for one thing, I don't think it should have been a Captain America film.
I agree.
I think it should
Yeah.
have been a separate film because because it's his film, you're kind of positioned to vote for him.
It's Avengers 3, basically.
It's like Avengers
Yeah.
2.5, isn't it?
And there's Thor and Hulk.
Yeah, it should not have been a Captain America film. But nonetheless, it's still fantastic. And it did introduce my favourite villain ever, which is Zemo.
Who's coming
Oh, yeah.
back?
Absolutely, I know, I can't wait. He's absolutely brilliant. And I loved that he didn't fight them. I think he's the only Marvel villain that doesn't actually fight the heroes.
Yeah, actually, I think, yeah.
I can't think of another.
I
And
can't.
that to me was brilliant. It's the fact that he's one of the I do think he's the only villain that just used his intellect. Like, he was intelligent enough to recognise that he wasn't able to beat them hand to hand, so he used tactics and intelligence
What about
to turn them on each other.
the guy from Incredible Hulk?
What?
Not Abomination. Not the one that was controlling Abomination.
What? William Hurt's character.
If that is his name, then...
Oh wait, Abomination, as in
The one Tim Roth plays, Sophie. Yeah. There it is. We
Alright.
can't not say it, can we?
We should move on
Wait,
from
Tim
that
Roth
point.
played him.
He did fight him. The military general that controlled him.
Yeah.
He's not really a villain as such. He was more just a dick. And also, you've got to remember, he was the military, and Abomination turned against him.
Yeah, true, I guess.
He's more a bit like the police in gangster films, where they're still the good guys, you just don't root for them.
Fair enough, yeah.
Zemo was just brilliant, and he changed the entire face of Marvel, really, didn't he? Because of him, Civil War happens, and that technically allowed Thanos to win in Infinity War.
I love how one thing starts to
Wait,
change
what
reaction.
did Zemo do again? I forgot what he did. What did he do?
He posed as the Winter Soldier, blew up the UN to get the Winter Soldier framed. Then when they arrested the Winter Soldier, he tricked him into going berserk, and basically then revealed that so that split the Avengers into two teams, and then he announced that Winter Soldier killed Iron Man's parents to turn them against each other again.
Yeah,
so
but
it was a very...
Iron Man.
Why did he want to do that?
Because he was Sokovian, which is the city they blew up in Age of Ultron.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that killed his entire family, so he wanted them to realise what it felt like to lose everything, just as he did.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, he had a point as well. As a villain, like most of the Marvel villains...
You're sort of making me think, oh god, they're the bad guys.
A great deal of them are just destruction. Whereas he was a very, very humanised character. He had an extremely good point. And to be honest, he was right. They did blow up a city and just not think about the consequences.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason I love this film is Zemo. But other than that, it was just a really good film as well.
My number 14 is a sequel which I literally just mentioned, so don't need to talk about it long. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
Good choice.
Yeah, all I will say is that honestly, I rewatched it again, and it is my favourite Star Wars film of all time. It is the best film.
I think it's most people's, isn't it? It never gets old.
It never gets, and it's honestly so well crafted. Like, I know I always say this, but as well in terms of filmmaking, like I say that because I want to get the point across that not just because it's like a nerdy thing to like.
Yeah, but most of the points we make on here are because of in terms of filmmaking.
Well, exactly, yeah, and it is great, and. Yeah, Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. I cannot fault it. I actually can't fault it. Like, I just love it.
No, I can't. You can't. It's not possible.
Okay, so my number 13 is a film that Lucas has already had, so we don't need to spend too long on it. It's The General, the Buster Keaton film.
Oh, yes. Such a good...
It's hilarious. I know, Brad, you didn't like it too much, or from what you saw.
No, I did like it. I think it's great.
You fell asleep. Your opinions about
I fell asleep for not half of it, like 10 minutes of it. So, yeah.
You said 40 minutes.
Yeah, last time you said you fell asleep for the majority of it. Hang on.
Well, no, like I fell asleep for it felt like the majority of it because it was like 2 hours, but I don't know.
You said last time that you watched 40 minutes of it and fell asleep for the rest. It's a 2-hour-long film.
I fell asleep when they got onto the train. I don't know when that was.
It's a
film
film about the train.
trains.
The entire film is spent on a train except for the first 40 minutes.
So my case is rested then.
But you missed the majority of it.
No, because I remember the end. I watched like the hour-long ending. Nonetheless.
So let's talk about the film.
I mean, we've already spoken about it once before, but I just think it's hilarious. Like, I feel like lots of people nowadays are put off by black and white films, and especially if it's a silent film. Like, they were like, oh, there's not much to it at all. But the story was amazing, and it was hilarious. It's funnier than a lot of films we're seeing nowadays.
Modern comedies.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
so stupid.
The Adam Sandler films are nowhere, like, light years away from the comedy that are Buster
Adam
Keaton.
Sandler sucked.
In fairness, I don't think anyone has
you.
actually ever said Adam Sandler's funny.
No, No, but some people put his films on and they can chuckle and they're like, oh, Adam Sandler is an actor. But Adam Sandler is such an awful actor. I will take this statement to my grave.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
I agree, but there is, for family-friendly films, he is a brilliant actor in the weirdest way.
No,
He's brilliant for that.
I don't even
You couldn't
know.
put Timothy Chalamet in a fucking Adam Sandler comedy. It wouldn't work.
No, I don't even care. I would rather put a house brick in the place of Adam Sandler. I will raise my children to make sure they never know who that man is. I just don't think he's funny or talented in any sense of the word. And he does the same film over and over again.
Yeah.
Just with different actresses that are meant to be his significant others in the film that are so out of his league that it's like he's never gonna do.
So, do you have a problem with films that propose the subjects that perhaps an uglier male could find an attractive female?
He can, just as long as he's not Adam Sandler.
I'm not making that point. I mean, I'm not here to start a massive debate.
I'm
just saying.
I will start a
I
movement.
don't think Adam Sandler is a very talented human being at all.
No,
I don't think
completely
he's
agree.
funny. I don't think he's got range.
He doesn't.
His face, he just as a human annoys me.
He just radiates annoyance, doesn't he?
He is a good guy, though.
Yeah.
Did you not hear what he did for his mates?
Who went around saying that Uncut Gems was amazing, that he should be up for an Oscar. I mean, I haven't seen all of Uncut Gems, but I am saying this right here, right now. Joker could have got that, like, Joaquin Phoenix got that Oscar over Adam Sandler because...
Adam Sandler doesn't even belong at the awards event, let alone...
Literally! The reason he wasn't invited to the Oscars is because he doesn't even deserve to look at an Oscar!
Let alone hold one.
I do agree with that.
Okay.
But I feel like...
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I think I read something about him that he kept his friends in work when they didn't have any through making all these shitty films.
We're not saying he's not a nice guy, he's saying he doesn't belong in the film industry.
No, I agree.
I
it's
mean,
just
he
that...
could be a really nice builder, but I guess I don't think he's cut out for the film industry.
At all.
It's not... At all.
My point was, though, that I don't feel like he wants his films to be Oscar-worthy winning. Like, I've always had the belief that every film doesn't need to be Oscar-worthy, and that's sort of, he fits into that.
Need to have actors.
But he fits into that category of really bad acting that, in the weirdest way, becomes the best acting for that sort of film.
Also known as crap films.
Yeah, but they're crap films, but they're not going to be Oscar-worthy. Like, there are those films that aren't Oscar-worthy. That's, you know...
Say
Yeah.
that they're not Oscar-worthy. Not every film... I get that not every film has to be Oscar-worthy, and I understand that the Oscars are very particular. They're very particular with criteria to actually be put up for Oscars.
Exactly.
He's become a household name, being in shitty films. I get that, but there are some people out there that look at him and go, "Oh, one of my favourite films is insert name of Adam Sandler film." I can't fucking remember any right now.
None of them are good enough to remember.
None of them are good enough to come to mind. But he has somehow been able to grow such fame. Being such a middleman.
No, but didn't he grow fame from one of his actual only good films in the 80s, The Wedding Singer? Like one of his earlier films.
I've never even heard of that film, right?
You've never heard of The Wedding Singer? It's like an 80s... The Wedding Singer.
Wedding Singer?
Yeah.
No.
It's like an 80s classic. And he grew fame from that. Which apparently he was actually good at.
Not if it had Adam Sandler.
It's got like really high rating on Rotten Tomatoes as well, and IMDb.
Well, then he could be one of those actors that was in one good film and then just decided to become an actor from that, but sucks.
I feel like he's got such a goofy mannerism around him. When he tried to be serious in Uncut Gems, it kind of backfired, and you're sat there like it's just Adam Sandler. It's not any specific guy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just his. Oh, you know what? I could write a 1,000-word essay about how I don't like this man. I'm gonna start. I don't even know how we got to bloody Adam Sandler. I was talking about a film from 1926.
Wait, actually, how did we get here? I have no idea. Oh my god.
I'm like, what?
The 1926 film, Adam Sandler.
Wait, what the fuck? How did we get here? Oh my god.
That this film's funnier than any Adam Sandler film that's out there currently.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you and I just went off on one.
Well, let's move on.
I'm so happy I found someone else that hates Adam Sandler.
When you edit this and look back, every point you've made, I've just agreed with it in the background.
I'm not editing that whole Adam Sandler rant out. I hope Adam Sandler finds this podcast and hears me get angry about him.
Oh no, I'm not saying edit it out, but when you're listening through to it, you can just hear me in the background.
Yep. Just Lucas in the back going, yeah!
Lucas.
Exactly. It's like whenever you said he's not funny, I've gone, he's not.
You're
It's like
13.
an echo.
Lucas is like my cheerleader.
Yeah.
I know you want to do your 13, go on.
No, Lucas needs to do his.
Here's my go.
Oh shit, sorry. Lucas.
Here's my arm. My number 13 is... It's another film where I can't really say enough good things about it. I think we watched it in film. We at least watched scenes from it, which is...
Chances are you wouldn't have been there.
No, I mean,
I love
it's
it.
great.
It's
Cast?
ridiculously disturbing
Yes.
and sickening, but it's so well done.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Like, I could write essays and essays about this film, about certain aspects of the cinematography, the editing, and just all these different filmmaking techniques that it completely nails. And it's also, the ending is fantastic. Because when they're driving to the location, you, as an audience member in your head, come up with every possible scenario of what might happen. And not one of those scenarios is what happens.
Okay, well, don't spoil it because I haven't seen it.
I've not met anyone that actually wasn't surprised by the ending.
Brad hasn't seen it, so...
Okay, well, we're
so-
ignoring Brad then.
My 13 is T2
Hold on.
Terminator. What? I wanted to...
not done.
I thought you was done. It's 5 o'clock, guys. Come on.
Sentence.
That's bored. Brad wants to move on.
Just because he hasn't seen it. I'm not done and you're not stopping me. This film is too good.
Oh, okay, go.
Sophie, because you've seen it, right?
Yes.
Do you agree the ending that no matter, like, when you first watch it, you do think of every possible scenario?
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there and you're kind of guessing, like, oh, what is going to happen, like,
You
in
don't know
this
what you're
situation.
expecting.
You cannot even think up what actually happens.
You don't know what you're expecting, but it is not what happens. That is the last thing you'd expect. No matter what you thought was going to happen, it still manages to be the last thing you were expecting. And as you said, I think when I started, the cast is just amazing.
Definitely. So
It's
many good performances.
all three of the main characters. Actually, I'll say all four, because Gwyneth Paltrow is really good as well.
Yes, she is.
All four of them just deliver such gripping and really emotional performances.
Yeah.
Like, each character, they're all quite opposites of each other, really. None of them are similar. You've got Morgan Freeman, who's very by the book. You've got Brad Pitt, who's complete, like, rogue reckless. And Kevin Spacey, he's sort of dead in it, isn't he? It's very
Haunting.
absent and haunted.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great film.
It's really good.
Really good film. Brad, you may now move on to your number 13.
My number 13 is T2, Terminator Judgment Day. Again, not much you can say about it. It's a great film. I chose this over Terminator, by the way. Have any of you seen it?
So I have.
No.
None of you have seen it?
Oh, Brad.
None
They
of
never
you
really
have seen it?
interested me. They seem too sort of, not cheesy, but kind of just
Oh
over the top.
my god. They are, and I'm gonna say it, in terms of filmmaking, yeah?
Ooh.
They are fucking amazing. And 80s was the time for sequels, honestly. Back to Future 1 and 2.
Agreed.
Great. Terminator 1 and 2, great. Right, Star Wars, whatever. Return of the Jedi, great. Anyway,
That was 70s.
Return of the Jedi was 80s.
Oh, yeah, true. I didn't think of it as a sequel, to be honest, because it's not the second one. That's where I went.
Well, it's a
Ignore me.
sequel to Empire Strikes Back, bitch.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, that's right.
anyway, nonetheless, I'm not going to say much then on Terminator because you guys haven't seen it, so I don't want to spoil anything. But honestly, it's a brilliant film, and I loved it. And we actually studied a bit, I think, in film in Year 12, Sophie.
Guess who wasn't there?
I can't remember. We did so many films. We probably did, yeah. So my number 12 is a film that even I'm looking at it now and it just brings me so much joy. It's such a good film. It's In Bruges.
You've tried to get me to watch this so many times.
Okay, yeah. I have got you to watch it so many times because it is such a good film. Have you still not watched it?
I still haven't seen it.
Lucas, have you seen it?
Have not heard of it, have not seen it.
Oh, eyes, what is it you doing? Basically, it's a British film. So we always support the British films. We like those. Martin McDonagh film, which I've got two more of his films lined up after this in my top 10. Because he just makes the most amazing films. But this is one of those first films that he made, like, starting out. And basically, it's about these two hitmen, Ray and I think the other one's called, played by Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. You know, the guy who played Mad-Eye Moody in the Harry Potter films.
Yes.
And basically, I don't want to spoil it too much, but they are both like exiled to Bruges in Belgium, and like. It's kind of they're stuck in this kind of complicated situation after their missions goes wrong, and a lot of stuff happens whilst they're in Bruges, and it kind of ends up with a standoff with their boss Harry, played by Ralph Fiennes, and it is hilarious.
Can I just point out that all three of those people have been in Harry Potter?
Actually, what was
Ralph Fiennes is Voldemort.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson is Mad-Eye Moody, and Colin Farrell is Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, that's probably why I didn't know if he was in.
He's really good in it.
I love Colin Farrell. Like, he's so good. He's also in another of my films. He was in The Gentleman, wasn't he?
Yeah, and we also ignore the fact that he was in the shitty Daredevil film.
Just ignore that, please. No, In Bruges is hilarious. It's sad. I honestly cannot advertise this film enough. It's just so good. I see no fault in this film. It's amazing. You guys need to watch it, please.
I really, really hope that both of you have seen this. I'm pretty sure you have, which is no pressure. But my number 12 is Love Actually.
I love this film.
Oh God, no!
You can't not.
I don't love it. I don't love it. Actually,
you don't love it.
I don't love it actually, because
I think he does. He's just trying to make that one pun.
No, I don't. I've seen it so many. If you have a mum, as if you don't have a mum, right?
If we have a mum,
right? If you have a mum like mine,
from an egg that fell from a whale.
I've seen it so many fucking times that I'm sick of it. Yes, it's a good film, but also I would actually say it's actually pretty shitty because it's so overpacked. Like, in terms of filmmaking, blah blah blah, it's overpacked with too many stories. Some that are so irrelevant, it just makes no sense. Like the porn one with Martin Freeman.
Yeah, okay, that's the only bad bit in my opinion. That was completely irrelevant, but the rest of it I think is genius. And I'd say it's fair to argue that it's overpacked, but I actually thought that's the best part. I thought it was really clever how they told each small story, and they all seemed to link.
The one of the guy from Death in Paradise who goes to America, that didn't link either.
Yeah, it did.
What did that link to?
He came back to his mate, who was the black guy, didn't he?
Oh, the black guy.
That one was linked to the Martin Freeman story, but it was still an enjoyable story. I found.
It's kind of like a side story.
Yeah,
to it
but
all.
also at the start he's a waiter for a party where Andrew Lincoln's character is. So they might not have known each other, but there's still the link there. And that was what I enjoyed most, was that they were some of the links were a lot bigger, like sibling relationships, but others were really small.
There were subtle links to all. Yeah.
I just think it's brilliant. It just never gets old for me.
It's just and the cast and all of it, and
it's incredible.
And Rickman and
I will say,
it's so emotional.
The cast and iconic scenes are great, but that's about it for me, I have to say.
No, I love all of it. Apart from the Martin Freeman storyline, the rest of it's just fantastic.
Don't attack Martin Freeman's storyline.
I just didn't. It didn't seem to go anywhere ever.
It did come out of nowhere. It's always a kind of like a whoa, okay scene,
But he asks her on a date. They go to her door, and then you don't see them for the rest of the film until right at the end when they announce they're engaged.
Yeah, it is kind of.
That was the only point for me where I was a bit like, okay, right.
Yeah.
They either needed to get rid of the story altogether or do more with it.
Don't get me wrong, I could always watch it. Like, there's nothing that would stop me watching it, but yeah, I just don't put it in my 100 top favourites.
Oh, it's my number 12. I absolutely love it.
I get
It's
that.
just such
So
a
do I.
heartwarming film.
Anyway, my number 12 is we watched this at the BFI actually. If you both came, A Streetcar Named Desire. I think this was the time, Sophie, you didn't come.
Oh, I was on the. That was the media trip. I did not come there.
Oh no, I think go on the media trip.
See, A Streetcar Named... Okay, so I watched this at the BFI, and oh my god, I fucking loved it. It's so good. The problem with here comes the BFI's problem once again. I was in the same theatre I was in to watch The General, and I nearly fell asleep again. They are too comfortable, them seats, for one. The lights are too dark. I have a real problem with the BFI. I feel like I need to have it out with them. Don't have comfortable seats. Have really shitty cinema seats.
Oh.
Don't have really dark, like super dark.
I still think those seats are uncomfortable.
They are very comfortable, them
can't
seats,
agree
Lucas.
there.
I don't know how you can say they're not. I was willing to fall asleep. Anyway, I've digressed. A Streetcar Named Desire. Have you ever seen it?
I recognise the title, which makes me think I might have watched it recently, but it's more one of those things that's come on TV and I've not realised I'm watching it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I
know
agree.
what you mean,
I
but
love
no,
the
I haven't
title, by the
seen
way.
it.
A Streetcar Named Desire.
What's it about?
So it's about this woman, and very different for a woman to be the lead, really, in that time.
When did it come out?
The 50s. And Marlon Brando's in it.
Yeah.
Very early Marlon Brando. And Marlon Brando and his girlfriend / wife, can't remember, her sister comes, and it's basically the unraveling of this sister's story. We end up. I'm not going to tell you what happened, but she ends up having a dark backstory, and it's the unraveling of how she really becomes this sort of psycho. So it's not like Psycho at all. She really becomes like this. Her story really becomes her personality. Like it really wraps her up into something that she just can't control herself anymore.
Right.
It's so good, and this was the film. I shit you not. This was the film that made me start watching all these. You know, I've been watching loads of old films recently. A Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah.
This is why it's at number 12. I loved it so much that it just influenced me so much more to watch. The storytelling is so dynamic and different, and it's so brilliantly crafted that's all I'll say on it. It's just brilliant. That's what influenced me. It's influenced me as a filmmaker as well.
I need to watch it. I know it's on my list. It's sort of like, I feel like I could label it as like an important film to watch. Like a film student. I need to watch it, I know.
It's a play as well.
Yeah, it's based on the play.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was banned for domestic violence and rape.
Ooh.
The film's not that bad.
But that might be why I recognise it. So, Sophie, you can take it onto your theatre podcast.
I can bring this into my theatre program. My last Office episode is The Wolf of Wall Street.
Interesting. I had that a lot.
I'm not a huge fan of this film.
I had it a lot lower down.
No.
When I was like going through this list, when I was like finalising all the spots, for like a week when I was like adding other films to this list, I had The Wolf of Wall Street at like number 3. Then I was like, I was thinking of these other films that came up, and it just shuffled it all the way to number 11. I mean, it's a good film. I found other films that are better than that, but I think it is a really good Scorsese film. I just think it's very chaotic.
I really didn't like it.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think. I never expected you to like it, Lucas. I feel like it's not really your kind of
No, it's not.
thing.
But ironically, I can see it being your kind of thing.
I mean, I don't adore it. I'm not like a crackhead. Like this whole film is completely like it's sex, drugs, and money. This whole film.
No, but it is a great film.
It's the kind of darker, more gritty, real side.
Yeah.
is your more kind of thing, whereas I'm more fantasy geek stuff.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, I mean,
They're very, very different film tastes.
Leo did so good in this film. I think he should have won an Oscar for it. I think he was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant in this. And it's hilarious. It's got a mix of everything. And I get that it's really long. I can't remember how long is it. Is it like 2.5 hour long film?
Yeah.
It's something like that. But I genuinely think it's a brilliant film. Like, chaos of just what's the main character's name? I can't remember. Jordan. The chaos of what Jordan goes through, just like him overdosing on drugs, you know, like his home life, the work life, just how sleazy everyone is on Wall Street. I just think, not just the main character, I just think everyone in it just kind of all goes so well.
I know a fun fact about this that I found out the other day about Wolf of Wall Street. So Jonah Hill, sorry to cut you off by the way.
That's okay.
Jonah Hill, obviously at the time he was known for Superbad and whatnot, but really wasn't critically acclaimed film. I mean, it's acclaimed, but not Oscar worthy. So in order for him to work with Martin Scorsese, he had to take a significant pay cut, and I think it ended up that, I could be very wrong, but I think it ended up that he only got paid like around £100,000 dollars to even, that's the British in me, sorry, dollars to even get into play the part in the film and work with Scorsese. They really docked his wage just to work with Scorsese, but he took it because to work with Scorsese is a once in a lifetime chance. We'll never get that. So
bloody hell.
Yeah, he did. He offered to work for very, very well, still loads of money, but very little in comparison to the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
In comparison to Leo's, millions, and then he's getting 100 grand.
64 million or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you got to work with Scorsese, so.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess that he can say that he has now anyway.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, all of it is so good. It's just an amazing film. I haven't said it's like my favourite film, but it's up there because it's just all of it. It's just, I don't know, I loved it. It was great. Yeah.
My last film for this episode is another Bond film. I say another, we already had one.
Yeah, we had one last time.
Yeah, we had Spectre, didn't we? This is Casino Royale.
And this was on the other day. I watched this.
It was. They're going through the Daniel Craig ones, aren't they?
Yeah, which I appreciated.
It's such
it
was a really
good film.
And it has one of my favourite opening sequences to a film when they do the chase through the construction site.
Yeah.
Which is just fantastic.
Breather.
It's quite a long film. I always forget how long this film is because I forget that after they've got the villain and everything, there's the whole thing with Vesper afterwards.
Mm.
So it's always a lot longer than I remember it being. But I just think it's a great start to a new Bond.
Yeah.
And it introduces him as a much more gritty. I use that word.
You can definitely see the change.
He's a much rougher Bond, isn't he? The fights are much more. He's a spy instead of a superhero. If you see what I mean. I'm not saying that other Bonds are like superheroes, but he's the first Bond where we see him properly get his ass kicked, and he's bleeding, and he's sweaty, and he's unshaven in certain parts. I mean, there's a very memorable scene where he's naked, tied to the chair, and getting his balls whacked with a which you would never have seen in any of the other Bond films.
It definitely shows that the Bond films have aged a bit.
Yeah, it's a real... Because obviously it's the first Daniel Craig one, it was a real sort of milestone for Bond, I think, where it changed how we look at Bond very much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I really have to say on it. Mostly because of how different it was it really did show how much Bond had aged. I agree with that.
Definitely has. I mean, it is a really good Bond film.
I haven't actually seen any of them. I did mean to watch it when it was on ITV last week, like you said, but I didn't get to. So, yeah. But my number 11, the last one for this episode, is that other Billy Wilder film I talked about earlier, way back, like 2 hours ago, feels like yesterday. It's The Apartment.
Great film.
It is so good. I must confess,
Honorable mention.
it was the probably very first like early film I'd ever seen. So like I know it's like 50 something.
I want to say 50.
I want to say 50 as well, which is
I think it is just 1950.
I think so.
so it's like 5 years after the war as well. So it was one of very, I think, so that for me was the very first classic cinema film I'd ever seen, which obviously has a heavy influence on me anyway, because it really opened my eyes to what classic cinema is.
Yeah, agreed.
But the character, I love Jack Lemmon as well. He's so good. Oh
yeah, he was really good at it.
He is really
He's amazing
good.
in this, and he's amazing in the majority of films he's in.
Yeah, exactly. But this was definitely a really standout one for him.
It really was.
This is the film I kind of go to when I think Jack Lemmon.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And Shirley MacLaine, it's just brilliant, and the storytelling is brilliant. Again, I keep saying it with classic films, but it just is. There's such a minimal set as well, and what was key, if you look at these 50s films, like if you watch a Streetcar Named Desire, The Apartment, they all really use one location, and that was also down to that studio-built system, where you all use one location, and for saving costs, they'd use that. But it works so perfectly. Whereas you see in a lot of films nowadays, they're like, which sometimes does work, don't get me wrong, but you see, like, you go from location to location, and it's like, that's what I'm talking about, the complexity of it. It doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be simple, and that really shows in these old films. I found it interesting to me that Pauline Kael said that Wilder she didn't really deem him a brilliant director, whereas I personally do. One of my inspirations, along with Hitchcock and some of the modern directors like Barry Jenkins and Pete Docter. But like I was saying, she put him as not at all. What category I can't remember the category she put him in, but she really didn't find him a great auteur or director. I don't know if you guys do, but yeah.
I do.
Can appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that is this episode. We only have one episode left, and then we've done, for me and Sophie, 100 films for Lucas 50.
Yep.
So
this is dramatic. It's the final countdown.
I know it is, and I feel like it's going to be a long episode because I have some good ones on there.
Prepare for a long haul, guys.
So anyway, like, subscribe, comment, all that shizzle, and obviously check us out on Spotify, YouTube. We're on both platforms now. And also check out at CineWatch on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And thank you for listening.